Welcome to Learn, Chat, Share, the podcast where knowledge meets conversation. Hosted by Daniel Wathen.
Welcome to Tickets to Travel, the business of travel experiences. I'm your host, Mario Bauduin. And on today's pod, we have Daniel Wathen. Welcome to the pod.
Well, good morning, Mario.
The
roles have been reversed. I'm usually the one interviewing, so it's
okay. So I can see why this might be a little awkward, but also this is a conversation that's long overdue, man. We've known each other. We've known each other for, I dare say, a long time. So I think one way to start this off. It's got to be like 25 years.
Oh yeah. We were babies when we were.
Because it's 2000. Yeah. Right. So I probably started. I started April of 2001, I think.
Oh, nice.
And you were there before
August 99.
Right. So August 99. All right. So. What we have to talk about is one, yes, we've known each other a long time, but where we started, because I like to say, hey, I'm one of the old school Travelscape Expedia guys who were kind of one of the first team members. I would say there's probably like 15, 20 of us who did the initial contracting for hotels. And my story always goes, Daniel, like I was the guy who would sit in the hotel lobby and say, I'm going to put your hotel on the internet. We're going to make millions of dollars. And they would say, shut up, kid, get out of here. Luckily, that all worked out. But you have even more of a story because you started out at not Travelscape, but at LVRS.
I was hired originally by LVRS. And for everyone, that's Las Vegas Reservation System, which was the primary business of the soon to become fully branded Travelscape.
And people are like, what's Travelscape? Is that like Netscape
exactly.
Travel or what is that? But so
Mario, when I was hired, I got hired at a company where I was like, internet travel, what's that?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, but like, tell me about that. Was it so? You had Tim and Tom who were the original founders of Travelscape, yes. Right? Or LVRS. The story goes that they go to San Diego State or something, and they had a business where they would buy ads for people who would come to Las Vegas. And so they just started getting inventory at their friends' hotels.
Before that, Tim, I think it's Tim. Tim actually worked at, Tim, if you're watching this, if you watch this, hit me up.
Right.
Number one.
Call me.
Number two, he was working valet at Palace Station.
Okay.
And
they went to school with the Fertittas, right? They were friends with the Fertittas.
Yes, they were all part of the involved in the Fertittas. And for those that don't know, they were the original owners of Station Casinos. And so they he every single night was about like trying to pull people in, for walk-ins, right? So Tim just got, hey, there's distressed inventory, and he built like a pegboard or whatever, which was which by the way was in a storage closet when we were back at Expedia.
Wow.
That historical item is owned by Expedia brand right now, or EG. So he's like, I guess he said, hey, like I can do this better or what have you. And so they said, prove it. And so he started working on it, and that morphed into this business model that became Las Vegas Reservation Systems. And at the time it was all call center, right? So it was calling for room inventory from the Las Vegas properties every single day. We'll get into what's changed with the technology. And then there was no online when they started that, right? And so then they launched the sort of first version of Las Vegas Reservation Systems. What they thought perfected it, right? Got it running, making money, and then said, oh, well, there's other destinations outside of Las Vegas. We should open this up, right?
Right.
And that was when I was hired, we're opening up to the rest of the United States.
You were the first New York City market manager.
I
right?
was the second New York City market manager.
Oh, shout
Actually,
out to who was the first?
the first name, her name is Jamie Paone.
Oh,
She went on at the time. She went on maternity leave, and I came in because I ran all the rest of the. It was New York, right, and then it was the entire like half of the United States.
yep.
And so they're like, "Hey, you know what you're doing. You come in and run New York." And so
It's so funny, dude. I hadn't thought of Jamie Payon until you said that, and then a picture of her just popped into my brain
yes,
of because when she came back from maternity, she was kind of doing some of the training and stuff, but I
yes,
didn't realize she was the first contractor. That's funny.
she was the first for New York. Yeah. Anyway, so when I started, there were probably 700 listings on the Travelscape side outside of Vegas. And then within a year, I personally probably onboarded 2,000
Sounds about right.
properties.
Yeah.
And so you get really good at negotiating when you're getting told no at every single first conversation. And this is when we used us as a comparison point against that horrible company at the time, hotels.com.
No. It wasn't
It
hotels.com,
was,
Daniel.
well, yeah, it was, what was it?
Hotel Reservations Network,
Yeah,
also known
HRN.
as
Yeah.
HRN. Yeah, because you were early days of the battle. I mean, so was I though in Miami. And shout out to Suze Beltran. Like she and I would like meet each other in a lobby, and the hotel would be like, "Oops, we double booked them," and it was like this really awkward sort of Crips and Bloods, type of gang situation where like, oh
Any
boy,
weapons. Yeah. So yeah, it was that. And, HRN, they vary their commissions. They're holding you hostage on room blocks. And we had just one commission model.
Yeah, well, that was the difference, right? Is that Travelscape allowed the hotels to raise the rate, and we had that sort of variable margin. So we would encourage them to do it because we'd make more money. The problem became that HRN they would raise their margin, but they wouldn't allow them to raise the net rate.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So they were getting kind of cheated. Well, in their eyes, it was a traditional wholesale model. Look, I bought your rooms and I own them. So let me put them out and I can charge whatever I want based on demand versus, it was more of a partnership on the Travelscape side where we were, hey, we're going to flex with you. We're still going to make our 25, 30%, whether it goes up or down. But at the end of the day, and I say this to a lot of people too, that we were probably that wave of contractors who were training a reservations manager to become a revenue manager.
Well, I would say that revenue management fundamentals, including parity, did not exist.
Right.
And if they did, it'd be like 5% of current, right? So there were no revenue management systems. It was all here, your experience, right?
Yeah.
And the models were, as you described, the models were very different, right? So in order to keep your commission/margin down with HRN, you had to throw more rooms in. You had to maintain that 10-room block, right? If not, they were going to take 45% commission, 50% commission, what have you. And, because we being HRN could truly revenue manage, or commission manage. And that's what we did on the Travelscape side. We, I think the statute of limitations has been long enough. We owned inventory, AKA we had contracted inventory that we had to pay for. We didn't really own it.
Took risk.
But I had to revenue manage, that inventory. And it was like, we got to sell 10 more rooms. What are we going to drop at $5? And,
Yeah.
And
I think
50% of my job at that time, you remember managing 3 properties. Anyway.
There's so many places we could go in terms of, but I think that's the other piece that people probably don't understand is that back then, 20 years ago, we did everything. We would go contract the hotel. We'd load the hotel into the system. Yeah. We'd gather all the content, all the photos, and then we would manage it. And even from a market perspective, we managed the sort order, which is now like this thing that people are like, oh, it's all automated and it's based on personalization, right? But back then it was like day trading. I could call a hotel and be like, hey, can you drop your rate by X amount, and then I'll pop you up to the top of the sort order. Once the inventory goes, you drop off, and I'll find another one. And like you're basically doing deals the entire time in very short stints because we had the data. We knew when the demand was coming in, and we can get ahead of it depending on who gave us more inventory.
I have to tell you, this is a Mario Daniel moment, right? I'm on a call, and it's an abrasive call, right? And I'm like, okay, hey, can you refresh your screen? Because they're in our sort order. Can you refresh your screen? Whoa, on the other end. What happened to me? I go, if you don't give me that rate, that's just what happened, right? And they like literally push them down.
You just like
I got Mario is like, because the partners in Florida were nicer, right? He's like, "Ooh, you're vicious." I was like,
but those days were fun, man. We had a lot of power, but I don't think we understood that we had the power, at least at the beginning.
No. We definitely used the tools, and we had things were way faster then, so that you could do certain activities like that. I don't think there's any online company today that has doesn't have some like super complex algorithm that's running their sort order or what have you.
Yeah, and the personalization depending on where that IP address is or what destination they're. Yeah, there's. But back then it was just like one set of demand coming in. I think we were doing limited Google ad buying, right? Like there was no Google. It was like
there was no Google.
AOL, Yahoo.
It was Yahoo.
Yeah, and so we became popular very quick with certain hotels. I think
we did, yeah.
So when you when did you realize? I mean, because you were at Expedia for a long time. You were there for 15 years.
22.
22 years. That's like being in the military or something, man.
At the end, it felt like a little.
I'm sure.
Here's my pension.
I mean, but you've seen.
My dad was in the military for 22, 23 years. He got a pension, I think.
So was mine, man. My dad went from the Air Force to the post office, and because was your dad stationed at Nellis? Is that how?
Yeah.
Okay, we had that in common. That's right. My dad was not stationed at Nellis. We were stationed at Travis and among other places. But to be at a company for 22 years, I mean, you've seen everything in online travel, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing but stories now, and remember the time.
But how did your role evolve over those days, those early days to
I mean,
what you end up doing?
Yeah, I think originally I was hired as a product manager. That's what we did. We managed onboarding product.
Product meaning hotels.
Yeah, bring on as much as possible. It wasn't like now what product management is all associated with technology and and enhancements, etc. And so that changed very quickly into, no, we manage markets, because once we had a certain product breadth, then we're managing actual markets. And, you can't jump from St. Louis to New York. Like, you need to sort of understand New York City versus St. Louis, right?
Right.
And so, Mario will tell you, I was fast and furious. There was nothing stopping me. I had a lot of energy, and I got to that senior role pretty quickly because I was a part of the. I'll call myself a product manager insofar as we developed a system called Hotel Inventory Management System, HIMS, the original.
Oh, right.
Me and an industry powerhouse, Carrie Katerick, we were part of that subject matter experts, because I had New York, so I had to be a part of it. Because that's
shout out to Carrie, who hired me.
Revenue management came from New York City, right? So
that's right. Everything in hotels starts in New York City, then it goes to Las Vegas, and then the rest of the world. Yeah.
Yeah. So we helped the Expedia team understand the merchant business, because they came from Microsoft and they were all about travel guides, and the original Expedia was like on a
CD-ROM.
CD-ROM, right? It was a travel guide, like an electronic travel guide. Get away from those, Is it Atlas? Who does those?
Oh, yeah. It was like
Those
an encyclopedia, like a CD-ROM or a
yeah,
Atlas, or that
yeah,
was the travel
exactly.
guide, right?
So we educated them on that, got through all those sort of revenue management fundamentals that we knew from Carrie's experience was Caribbean, Las Vegas, Florida. Mine was, you know, all the corporate destinations, New York City, etc. So we got them to build our first version. It launched. It launched. Well, we launched it the middle of August of 2021. I mean 2001. Sorry, 2021. I processed the first extranet change because we had an extranet that hotel suppliers could go on and actually interact with. It triggered a note to me, and I processed it on August 25th, 2001. And then 3 weeks later, 9/11 happened.
Oh boy. Yeah, no, so I remember this vividly because up until that point we were faxing, right?
Oh, yeah.
Sell and report.
Yeah.
And the extranet or HIMS was like this monumental step forward. And
Yeah.
then we became trainers of it to get,
Yeah. Yeah. We
to
were
get
signing
people to
people up left
engage.
and right, right?
Yeah.
So, try to get them involved. New York, luckily, was our beta destination. So, there were more users on the extranet, say like good, probably 50 users.
Right.
Because it's weird. Hotel systems at the time were locked out of the internet. They weren't connected. So, can
It's amazing. It's amazing to think about. So which then, especially in online, when you look at online travel over the last 20, 30 years, there's been a couple of different waves. And I think the first initial wave was really 9/11, where you and I lived through that and there's so many associated stories because after 9/11, that was really the rise of online travel
oh,
because that's when the hotels were like, this is a lot easier to manage. We're going to be able to put our inventory here and it just disappears, right? Like it gets sold and they get kind of hooked on it if they have the right type of introductory offer or
yes,
something that happens, right? So that it goes from 9/11, and then I would say 2008, the sort of economic issues that were happening, Lehman Brothers, that kind of thing, and then
yes,
you see this kind of born out of it is like flash sale sites, right? Like
yeah.
the jet setters, the Groupons, the Living Socials, and then there's this other shift in online travel a
Closed
few
loop,
years, close user groups, right?
closed user groups.
Right. And then there's another one with, I guess, like attractions
Totally.
and
Yeah.
ticketing and
Hmm.
add-ons in that way. So I kind of feel like the next one is event travel, like around live events. And you've had a little bit of experience with ticketing as well. I think that's where we started to
Yes.
reconnect as well. But over this time, especially during that time of 9/11, what do you think changed the behavior of not just the industry, but like how the hotels saw the internet?
Yeah. I mean, if you think of those two specific periods, in addition to COVID, right?
Right.
This sort of duress, that's pressure that's put down on the industry, right? And usually they have to lay a lot of people off, right? So not only is it duress, like there's pressure in the market, but you have a very small group of individuals that are having to do the same work, right? And so that's that, I
So
would
it's about
say 9/11,
efficiency at the end of it.
for the first 6 months prompted a lot, like 20% of the workforce just got
Right.
chopped, right? So really it was like everything that had to do with automate, and this is throughout the last 25 years. Every time we hit another hurdle in automation or another hurdle in revenue management automation or another hurdle in AI involved in, it's duress, something hits the market, we have less people and we have to solve for things automatically, right? So I'd say one of the things that prompted folks to go online is the phone lines went down,
Right.
right? Which was strange because the internet was up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the revenue manager could not call me, but could email me and or jump on the extranet and strip out inventory.
Right. Or what was happening during that time period? Remember when the all the planes were grounded
Mm-hmm.
when that happened,
Yeah.
and I remember all of the airport hotels in Florida, not all of them, but a good portion of them, started to pull all of their inventory out so that they could raise the
Yeah.
rates very high. And I remember all of us sitting in the pit, kind of sitting there going like, do we allow this to happen? This is complete price gouging. But it was this moment in time where you started to figure out like who was a good person and who was a bad person. And it really was this technology that allowed us to be able to view it, because we were kind of behind the scenes. We saw a news report, because even then it was a little bit slower to get out, but we knew personally, like the person who was like, you know what, I don't care. You guys, you can oversell me or whatever, but I'm not going to honor your reservations. I'm going to get, $2,000 tonight on that one room.
Yes.
And so it was a very interesting time as to these type of stories. But I think, what we're getting at is that when something big like that happens, travel in of itself and technology is very resilient, and it creates these efficiencies with people at hotels or people at, distributors like that. And so I did you see the same thing? Because I wasn't really in that mode around COVID, but how do you think COVID affected everything?
COVID, we shut Las Vegas off. Like, like the strip closed. That did not happen during 9/11, right? So, and that's with 5,000 planes grounded in less than 2 hours, right? So, I would say that every single time there is a huge uplift in travel. Now, it may not be at the rates that everyone wants them to be, right? But the amount of travel that, it's the revenge travel part of this. Like, you can't keep the humans locked up for 2 years and expect that they're not going to spend every last red cent that they've saved and or the money that they don't have in order to get out of their house and go travel. So I think you're going to see 9/11, 6 months after 9/11. We had a stellar year, but we were in that super growth mode. So what did we have to compare it with, right? But the hotel industry rebounded really quickly, right? And then economic, that takes a little longer, but still, I would say 2010 stellar year, 11 stellar, 12 stellar. Being a part of that was pretty phenomenal. And that's when all the, hey, we can get more, or wow, there's revenue management here. We don't have to set one rate for a season. We can actually now vary our rates weekend, midweek. We can vary our rates by occupancy and what have
by
you.
hour.
The systems got better, right? And they had, these revenue folks had access to this, and they could make more informed decisions and what have you. 25 years ago, there were not really, and it was all here. Hey, we're not going to get any more than $29 rate at Palace Station or wherever it was, right?
Yeah,
that's it.
It's interesting that you also have a little bit of ticketing in your background, working at Vegas.com and knowing the Las Vegas market. I'm chuckling when you're talking about 9/11 Vic, because we lived there during 9/11.
Yeah.
And I remember going to Mandalay Bay and hanging out, going to Rum Jungle or whatever it was, and it just being empty and going like, where is everybody? Oh, there are no flights coming in, right? But, on the ticketing side, or that when you were at Vegas.com, did you see sort of the same kind of principles from revenue management and hotels to ticketing? Did you see anything?
I would say what's interesting about my career that at various points I've had to actually relearn.
Yeah.
Learning ticketing is a vastly different type of business, mostly because it is like hotel 20 years ago.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
And they're only getting better. They're better now at revenue management, but a lot of the systems that they're using are structured like hotel systems were 20 years ago, right? And so
it's not revenue management, it's called dynamic pricing.
Dynamic pricing, yes. Dynamic pricing, that's really just manual intervention.
Right.
May have changed in the last year. But
we'll see.
Just the way that ticketing is, and it's all distressed inventory. If you don't sell that ticket for the same day, then it's just an empty seat.
Yep.
I would say I would say, for a business that didn't really need to do revenue management, now they're finding that, there is a lot of benefit to that. And so I think what's great about the ticketing industry is they don't have to necessarily learn it like the hotel industry had to learn it. They'll adopt fundamentals, I would say, quickly, because the technology will just be available. Once the technologists can build out, revenue management platforms, et cetera, that like support hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different ticketing platforms, then, they're going to get there a lot faster than the hotel industry.
No, I think you're right. It's interesting because it is fragmented from ticketing systems the same way a PMS or a CRS system would be. Except in the hotel side, you don't have one big monster who kind of controls the supply and the demand in terms of Ticketmaster. And so that's a little bit of a complexity, I think, if you're going to have a platform that manages dynamic pricing throughout all these different primary systems.
Yes.
You still got to get past those guys in a lot of ways. And I feel like they're making strides. Like if you go to try to buy your Coldplay tickets or whatever, you're subjected to dynamic pricing. I think a topic that comes up here quite a bit, and it's because you have a revenue management background and some ticketing. The difference being is that hotels understand the available inventory. So you can see the prices change, and it's 365 days a year versus you have one Beyoncé show and you don't know how many available tickets there are. All you know is that once you hit refresh, the price changes. And so there's all this kind of, discussion around how they should be priced when at the end of the day, there's just a ton of demand coming in over this one particular date to manage.
I would say there's a level of complexity also being added that it's not true in the hotel space, right? And that is you have a bunch of AI bots that are buying this inventory, right? So it gets gobbled up, right? And it gets gobbled up quickly, and there's not a human being involved in it necessarily, right? But the human being is like, you name an artist, I can't get in. There's no way, right? To get these tickets. And it's revenue managing, right? And so all this inventory ends up going out on the secondary markets,
right?
In the future. So there's like a whole secondary level of business, involved in this that's not true in the hotel industry, right?
That's right. There's no resale.
The secondary business in hotel is Airbnb, verbal,
or
like it's like,
or you go to another hotel.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Like you like there's not another Beyonce playing in the city.
Right. Yeah, that's a good. It's related. It's similar, but definitely different because there's more available inventory at different levels of rates on the hotel side versus one venue.
I personally think that in order for, and I'm a disruptor, right? So I think this is to Ticketmaster and Access. Like they should launch studies about how much inventory gets gobbled up by secondary market and be open. Like, is this something that, this uncovers everything, right? the artist probably doesn't care. I'm not saying that Beyonce has a team, right? But they make money depending on how they've negotiated the contract with Ticketmaster on the number of times the tickets get sold, right? And so they're they being some of these, folks are probably okay with a ticket turning hands twice because they make a percentage off of that. And so I think
it's very complex. Yeah. You don't know how many the artist and the promoter have actually held back for themselves. So let's say they have an Amex deal for their fan club.
Yeah.
So there's a percentage there, which Amex probably cuts them a nice check for several $1 million to get the rights to do that. You have, the resellers, to your point, they will gobble them up and then put them on the secondary market. But then you have this complexity of a fan who can't take out their entire day to go and sit online to buy on the primary, especially with music touring. Sports a little bit different, right? Like you're always going to have some type of ticket pricing because there's just more opportunity. But like if it's that one tour and fans are trying to get in, a lot of them, they just don't have the time. And so a lot of them have sort of said, hey, you know what, I'll just wait for it to get to a secondary market. And that's the service they're providing to me. So I think the transparency is one. The artist and the promoter are not really saying how many they've held back to sort of dictates what the pricing will look like.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, the secondary markets, Ticketmaster in particular wants to cap the secondary market. But I think that is just sort of like creating like a hotel getting direct business, right? Like no one else can sell it, or you're capped at $2 or whatever it is, but we're going to raise the primary ticket pricing and make everybody come to me. So I see both sides. It's really interesting. And I always liken it back to what we were talking about from a hotel revenue management standpoint, that it's different but similar, because revenue management on the hotel side, they're always looking at available inventory based on occupancy by day or by night, you know?
But the user, like, I don't know what Bellagio's occupancy is for August 17th.
Okay. But
at any given time, you can see kind of what the public occupancy is for that, you know, we're picking on Beyonce, for that Beyonce show on August 17th.
She has it coming to her, man. You know, that Cowboy Carter.
But I don't think people know, like, they at launch, they only released 5,000 tickets, and they, you know, it's
right.
The map is whatever they say the map is, right? And so
that's what I'm getting at. Is like, where's the real transparency?
And then 2 weeks later, they do a repricing refresh, because it'll take them 2 weeks to change their pricing.
Yeah, because they'll hold back tickets.
And then they release another 5,000, right? And but the map says they're sold out, but are they sold out? Who knows? You know what? You know, so
you don't actually know, Daniel. That's my point. It's like, I see both sides. I understand why Ticketmaster wants this, and they want to be artists first. Well, but I also see the reseller side.
And I'm very close to, so for everyone, like, you know, how maps are managed was very important to me when I was at Vegas.com, like, you know, because we wanted inventory parity and, you know, just like, hey, what kind of access to what seats, et cetera. So I spent a lot of time looking at it. And when I go to try and buy a Lady Gaga ticket on the day and the entire map says that it's on the secondary market, first, as a consumer, I'm pissed because I want that Lady Gaga ticket that I was trying to buy. Second, I don't know if the impossibility of it just seems a little strange to me. So,
yeah, no, it's because if it's not available and it's on a secondary market, which secondary market?
Well,
because Ticketmaster has a secondary market, right?
Where they can revenue manage.
Exactly. So that's what I mean. Like, it's a very complex topic, but because I'm like, people like us are interested in it because we saw. I know.
You know what? Hey,
hotels do this.
I should promote myself here. I love the ticketing world.
Me too, man.
I'm very experienced. I would love a job in the ticketing space.
We'll keep talking.
Don't take my commentary as
we can edit anything too, Daniel. Like, if I'll let you listen to this, if it sounds too crazy, we'll take it out. It's no big deal.
Well, no, I think without being subversive, I think there's just a lot of what the ticketing industry has done has to some extent they're way more public with information, right? And I think that's why folks are really curious as to how a ticket price is a ticket price. That's different than the hotel industry. And then vice versa, there's a lot of stuff that's shielded that not a lot of people sort of understand. So
no, and this is why we try to
I think they're not going to follow the same tracks, right? I think, you know, ticketing has enough uniqueness where they're gonna resolve some of their revenue management and make dynamic even more dynamic.
Well, I also think there's just a fundamental difference in that hotels are based on seasonality demand versus the actual demand of a fan base, you know?
Yes.
So Lady Gaga, it could be in the middle of winter in New York City. She's still going to sell the place out, right? And so that's sort of the kind of why this is a passion project of talking about this stuff, is because I think live events in general, it's always been this way, but there hasn't been a huge spotlight on it until Taylor Swift, honestly, that live event can drive so much demand wherever it might be. And so if we could go to Lady Gaga and say, hey, do you want to make the most money on your packages, hotel packages? do it in New York City in the first 2 weeks of January, right? Like no one is there. It's freezing cold. And you are going to get the biggest margin on any of this
I know,
stuff.
but like if it's Taylor Swift, it's Wednesday at midnight. She could still sell that stadium out.
Exactly, right? So,
and not even blink an eye doing it.
But from a business perspective, like people like you and I, we could. It doesn't even take much analysis, right? Like we understand the seasonality of a certain market. We understand what capacity looks like in terms of hotel supply around it. You couple that with Madison Square Garden available seats, and you could still sell a bunch of packages and also create the demand. And especially if you're doing touring, right? Touring, you could pick out certain destinations that could get you bigger margins where they need the help essentially on a shoulder on a low season. And so, that's some of the conversations that I have, not just on the podcast, but just as a consultant, is really trying to strategically figure out what the most bang for you, because a lot of the things on the entertainment side, Daniel, is driven by Beyonce, right? She's like, I think I want to be in Hawaii when everybody else is in Hawaii because it's cold elsewhere, right? Like you're like, you're actually putting a lot of strain by entering a high demand show into an already busy market. Right? Yeah. And so just like having a quick conversation for us for a fee, we could sort of help them understand what the best.
Don't platform your whole entire tour based on what you want.
Exactly. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Tell the story that you were business building in all of these destinations. Let's flip it.
Exactly. I mean, it wouldn't take that much for you to do a full analysis and say, hey, this is a preferred or recommended routing.
Oh yeah, you can totally do that.
Right.
And then at the same time, talk to every other theater in those markets about taking that day off.
Right. Or hosting adjacent parties.
Yes. Yeah.
To drum up demand, because, like certain destinations are doing this, right? Like I had some guests on where they went to Scotland to see Taylor Swift. Well, you were there. She had like 3 shows over that course of the week, but they had put, wrapped buses of Taylor Swift. There were like coffee shops doing Taylor promotions. And so whether you got into the venue or not, you still experience the Taylor Swift vibe because you're walking throughout the destination and being able to do it. So that's also another message just to DMOs and CVBs and tourism boards to be like, listen, you're probably already talking to Live Nation or whoever else, but if you can get everybody on board, the entire, the tide lifts all boats in that particular market because you're piggyback riding on the demand that's coming into it. And I don't think enough people in these industries understand that, where it's a systematic process where people like you and I could come in and be like, here's the plan. And this is how we manage around it. And here are the estimated margins and gross bookings or revenue that you can essentially make with this type of artist. Because the data is out there from a Coldplay down to a Red Hot Chili Pepper, whatever it is. There's so much data on the type of demand and the type of sellouts that they do that you could kind of see the effects of the impact in the travel markets or just restaurants and other things.
Yeah, I think when these like super performers, because there's a group of them now, right?
Yeah,
like, there's a lot to be said about them warning a market that they're about to release. So I would say
they should hire
Las
some
Vegas would benefit from that specifically, well, right? But
Las Vegas in particular, you could have 3 big headliners in 1 week, right? And
or when you're like, not to pick on St. Louis, but they don't have enough hotel inventory to support a large super performer, right? So it ends up being like the entire Southern Illinois and, that whole entire area radius, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry that some small town 20 miles away from the venue that is still doable, right, does not know that, something just got released, right? So there's a lot of revenue management. Like there's some symbiosis, I think, in these markets where like, hey, this is going to happen. And so some folks get ahead of it really quickly and then they gouge, right? Which is not what I'm suggesting.
Well, no, but they do it. They should do it in a revenue management fashion, right? Like sort of build up the base and then because that's what's happening is that you hear the announce because they don't communicate it. So I think there's like maybe a gap there, right? Where you could get any of these entertainment companies, whether it be the World Cup or Live Nation or whoever, could hire a guy like you to say, I'm going to communicate this before it hits out into the markets to manage this in such a way where one, it's almost a PR role, right?
The consultant will be like, I will tell everyone something is being announced tomorrow on these dates. Be prepared for that.
Be prepared. And this is how we suggest you prepare. Right?
Consult it. I'll sign whatever NDA that you want. I will not name the name.
No, but I think it's important to because you and I are very unique in that we have sort of that ticketing and travel background, and there aren't a lot of people who do. And so, as you look at event travel is what they're coining it. Like, where do you see it changing? I mean, you saw a bit, through the transition of Vegas.com and Vivid Seats, and obviously Vegas.com is probably a perfect example of how this works because you're contracting hotels, you're contracting tickets for shows, and you probably have an idea.
Unique shows that come into play as well.
Yeah, residencies.
I would say that that the more unique the experience, the more successful it's going to be, right? And think of this is my story for the rest of my life. So at 16, I went to Taylor Swift. I did not. At 16, I went to Motley Crue. That was a pretty big deal.
Love to see that show.
What?
I would love to see the show at that time.
I can't even tell the story of the show because it has a parental rating.
Oh, okay.
I'll tell you later.
Yeah, off topic. Yeah,
16. So it's going to be wildly like the Taylor Swifts, the Beyoncés, the Benson Boones, Sabrina Carpenters, all of these super Lady Gaga. That is going to continue, so they're big, they're huge events. It's where a human being can be very human and record the whole thing. Right. Then they have the memory for the rest of their lives. I think if you are an up and coming theater production, something new, something that someone can experience for the first time, it's going to be popular, right? I think those shows that have been around a long time that may have movies after them and like there's some other sort of format that folks can experience it in, I think they're going to suffer a bit. So as far as the event travel, if it's in a location, I'm an American and it happens to be in Brazil, yes, I'm going to be part of that 2.5 million people that are going to have the largest concert on the planet ever.
You're talking about Lady Gaga, aren't you?
Yeah. Like, there's no way that 700 square miles of that continent could not support that number of people, right? So I think those, like, who would have thought a 2.5 million person event would be successful?
It was free.
Right.
It was
free, but there wasn't any issues with it, right? So I don't know. Like I think that's going to continue for sure. And I think good for the artists that they're gonna, a lot of these tours are international. So I think, as long as borders are the way they are, you can experience anything anywhere. And so I think you're going to see a lot of folks, sort of move around the planet in order to go see, what they want to see. I would say a large number of later teen, early 20s folks that I know, they all went to Europe to go see all of these artists versus, I mean, we live in Las Vegas, the entertainment capital of the world. They didn't see them here. They went to they went to Provence or wherever
Right.
to go, experience elsewhere. And these are huge. I mean, this is 5-6 grand that they're spending on these vacations. Like, this isn't like backpacking through Europe.
Per
This is
person.
like
Yeah.
per person. They're doing it, right? And I'm like, that's wild. That's a whole different mental. I think it's just a different approach to how they experience these things than there's
Yeah.
no way I was at 22 dropping 3 grand to fly to London to see Michael Jackson. Now I probably should have, but there's no way I would have done that, right? That's not like that.
Yeah.
It didn't even like who's doing that, right?
No, I
And now,
think you're exactly right. I mean, that's one thing. When I worked at Pollen, we were doing destination festivals. We had a ton of data. We had a lot of consultants, Bain, McKinsey
yes,
consultants who worked with us. And after you do the surveys, because of what's going on in the world, inflation, uh, housing prices are really expensive now. So those people in their 20s, the Gen Z, millennial people, they're not trying to save money. They're trying to have experiences,
mm-hmm.
and they will invest in them because also you overlap that with social media, and sort of you can make money through social media if you have these very unique aspirational experiences. That's been a huge shift, and that was confirmed in a lot of ways. So I think you're right. I think that the attitudes have just shifted, and event travel's here to stay. And actually, I think it's going to grow at various levels. So, and you live in the perfect place, right? Like you can see everything from Lady Gaga to the F1 now to, Usher's residency or Wu-Tang's residency. You get to see a lot of it. So I also consider you one of my Las Vegas experts, because I think that was a good chunk of your Expedia life too, was managing Las Vegas, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And so just to sort of bring it all together, as the entertainment capital of the world, as you mentioned, which I believe you, what's going on right now in Las Vegas? Like, have you seen the numbers sort of drop? Is there a sentiment? There's all this stuff on social media that, it's empty and all this and that, which I don't really believe, but what's your take on Las Vegas?
You can believe it. You can believe it. I would say that Vegas is an international destination, and so every time in the last 25 years that something has impacted international travel, and that could just
you mean like tariffs and immigration law?
Exactly.
Okay,
And,
gotcha.
Without getting too political, but there's been some political moments throughout the last 25 years. Vegas takes a hit. I would also call Vegas a precursor to other hospitality erosions, right? And so Vegas usually happens because it's fully leisure, right? Then New York gets impacted, DC, San Francisco, et cetera. So I would say that we're in that precursor mode. The summer tends to be much more of there's more international travel during the summer than there is at various other times of the year. And so we're just seeing the impact of it. And when you have a whole entire country that doesn't want to become the 51st state,
yeah, I don't think people realize how much Canadian business.
This is the heyday launch pad for a lot of Canadians, and they're not really coming, right? And so I would say, yeah, we're feeling it here. But then there's so much entertainment, and it is neat. I'm going to call it country niche, but it's not. But very popular. Like Kenny Chesney sold out, right? It's just the Wizard of Oz is coming to the Sphere. That's going to be kind of cool for a lot of folks to re-experience the Wizard of Oz. So there's just a lot to do. But the summer was always soft in this market, and it's going to be soft this year.
I think I don't think people realize how much Canadian business and Chinese business that comes to Las Vegas monthly.
Well, you know what the reason why? A Canadian person in Toronto will decide today that they're coming to Vegas.
Right, they can do it. There's direct flights.
They will get on the flight. They will not have a hotel when they land.
Right.
and then they will check in, and they're considered a walk-in because it wasn't necessarily a planned trip, right?
Right.
They can stay 24 hours, do whatever it is the Canadian's going to do here, and then get out of town.
And
they'll
that's
do it on a
that's a
random,
real thing.
and they'll
You've
do it
seen
on a
this.
random Wednesday, right? And so
Yeah.
it's just and there's a huge volume of that. Like we were doing studies at Expedia, and this was one of the weird facts that popped out of it is like, what demographic jumps on a plane last minute and comes to the city, and it was Canadians over someone from LA. Everyone thinks LA, like, oh, it's so close, they'll just
Right.
drive in. No, it was Canadians from Vancouver and Toronto.
Is there a percentage that you would see? Like
I can't. I mean, I could come up with a number. It was enough to be significant, where it
for you to remember.
Blasted, like, you think 250 mile radius to Vegas. Oh, that's all the last minute travel. No, it was Canadians. It was wild.
No, there's been so much talk about it. So the other piece in Las Vegas that I see, and what I've heard, I've had a couple people challenge this on social media with me. It's just that it's too expensive now, and that even Americans don't want to go to Vegas because, I mean, I guess Resorts World just pulled back parking. Now they made it free again, but there's all these pieces of resort fees and parking and entry into clubs, table service. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
the GDP of a small country, just to hang out with Tiesto or whatever it might be. Do you feel like the pricing has also been a deterrent, or it's just compounded with all the other international markets?
As a local, it would be a splurge for me to go to a day club.
Right.
As a local. So even if I Uber, that's $50.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Everything's $50. Remember when it used to be $5 and $10 or $20 max or what have you? I mean,
$4.99 steak and eggs, man.
When you lived here, it was but it's $50 to park. It's $50 to get in. It's $50 a drink round. So it's just like 50. These things add up. I'm just making up these numbers just to give everyone like it's you're dropping in any given day like $500 to $1,000. So it is, it is expensive. I've done personal analysis. Sometimes it is cheaper to go to Hawaii.
Wow. From Las Vegas. Well, there are direct flights to Hawaii from Las Vegas. There's a huge Hawaiian population in Vegas.
It is cheaper for me to go to Hawaii than it is to stay on the Strip for the same number of days.
Without a flight, considering.
Without a flight?
Wow. Because... Let's break that down for a second. You could take Southwest, right?
Yeah. It's just, I think the concept of entertainment is different from Hawaii to Vegas, right? So you do need to do something at night here. I mean, you're not staying in the room, right? So add the entertainment and all the eating and, beverages and the room, because especially if you want to stay somewhere nice, and for 7 days, that's a long time in Vegas.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I say this all day. It's like 3 nights max. 2 nights better.
3 nights?
Yeah, 3 nights max.
They have your Monday after 4. So.
Oh, well, we'll schedule. But you're right. That's crazy to think that you could go enjoy a nice resort.
Yeah, and Hawaii. I mean, not to fault them, like with the huge rebound with revenge travel to this market after COVID, once you start to hit certain ADRs, like what sort of publicly traded company is going to tell the Wall Street that they're going to have to come down on rate? Zero, right? So, I mean, it's, shareholders are, for right or wrong, are a part of the revenue management, profitability, right? And so, that's why you start charging for parking. That's why you start, adding in fees for XYZ. Personally, as a consumer, that they don't need to backtrack off of that. But unraveling that machine is going to be super difficult for some of these companies.
But it always bounces back, Daniel. It always. Right? We've seen it.
Sure.
It will come back, and it always happens.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if our inflation periods, inflation recession periods in the past are like this. There were never tariff wars or the discussion of them. So
Well, it'll take a little bit longer to come back, but
I don't
it
know.
will come
Amazon
back.
Prime Days is now going to be 4 days versus 2. Like they're going to give you more time to buy whatever. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, and I'm a consumer just like you are. So I wish everything was way more affordable.
Don't we all? Don't we all? Well, hey man, thank you for making a little bit of time to have this walk down memory lane, but also give your insights on ticketing as well as event travel and Las Vegas, of course. So hopefully we could do it again soon, or I can jump on your pod and we can
Anytime.
continue the conversation. But thanks, Daniel. I really appreciate it.
All right. Wonderful.
All right.